Welcome. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the new UGD Arena and kind of some things on how it works and just an overview of things to look out for and what to expect. Starting off, it's a new type of arena mode that is PvP with some PvE at the very beginning against some of the computer-based enemies, but then later you're going to be fighting against teams. The teams that you fight against are random according to it, but they seem to be getting stronger as you progress through. First thing to note as you go over it, there is something that you need to pay attention to, and that is the merit. As seen down at the bottom, on the bottom left, this is your team's merit. Whenever building a team, you'll want to pay attention to this merit. You have a maximum of 2200 merit that you can do with each Elune that you pick. Depending on the grade and the rarity of it will determine how much merits it's worth. The merit for each Elune is determined at the very top by a score that it is given. So in this case, as you can see on the team that I have picked here, the merit is the Nasser is 440, the Majed is 300, the Freya is 550, the Fabian 400, and the Reaper is 500. This gives me a total of 2190 merit. Now you want to hit 2200 or lower. If you go above the 2200, your effectiveness as your team goes down greatly. Your defenses, your attack, your HP, everything is really hurt by this, and it'll be much easier to kill you in the UGD Arena if you use it as offense or on defense. The defensive teams will work in the same manner, so make sure you pay attention to that. The very last slot that you see right under where it says Team CP, the very last slot there, that is for something called a foul. A foul is a extra ability that you can use. Now you'll get a choice of 2 of them at random whenever you're doing attacks. Each one will be worth a certain amount of merit. That merit will go towards your merit score for your team. So if you do want to use a foul as a bonus, then you can do that, but you'll need to take that into consideration when building your team. Most of the fouls are anywhere between 150 to 250, usually around the 150, 200, or 250 merit points. You can use them once during the battle, and they will give you certain abilities. Some of them give you a heal, some of them give you an attack boost, some of them will have an effect on your opponent, like through some type of restrain or stun effect based on certain conditions. You can use the fouls also on your defense, but they have to meet certain conditions again for them to be used on the defense. Whereas on the offense, you can use it at any time that you like. The video that I'm going to show you here is one that I pre-recorded, so I can skip through certain aspects of it to kind of show you an overview quickly of it. So as you can see at first, these are the different aspects. This is your team makeup. You can do whatever team you want. This is one that I just have here for testing or for playing around with, depending. So let's go ahead and play around with it just a little bit to show you, and we'll see what's going on with it. So you can see, as you can see here, this is at the top. You can switch between your attack and defense based on the tabs up there, and then you can do teams based on that. For this video, I was just putting in 2 different teams just to show you the different ways that you can make teams and how their effectiveness is. Now, whenever you start at the match, when you use one of your tickets to start the matches, there are 2 conditions for finishing out a ticket. The first one is to either win 15 matches total or to lose 3 times, whichever one comes first, and you will gain the rewards based on the matches that you win, as well as additional rewards based on other aspects of the battle. This case, this is one of the things that it'll always ask you, is the Medina secret deal. You have 3 different options here, an easy, a normal, and a hard. Each one will be different, and you'll kind of be able to see the team in the background, but most of the time you won't be able to see the team, and once you pick this, you don't change it. So for this aspect, you have for this one, it has 3 options. Win with no fallen allies, in other words, nothing dies at all. Revive still counts as a fallen ally, so if something dies and it revives, that will still mean that you fail this condition. The normal, win within 25 turns. There's a turn counter when you get into it, and you have to win within that many total turns for both teams. And then the hard mode in this case is win without a restricted Elune on your team. And then you can click the restricted Elune question and it'll show you the Elunes that are restricted. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. If it shows me any, or if I did that option, I don't remember. Ah, yes I did. Okay. As you can see, when you do the restricted Elune option, what happens is it'll mark Elunes that are restricted according to the 5 that are given to you. So let's see if we can go back real quick and take a look at the 5 that were given. Okay, so for this one, these are the 5 Elunes that were restricted for this battle. Balder, McCarthy, Karu, Catherine, and Reyna. So these are the 5 that are restricted, so you can't use those at all. So as you go through and then you start picking your team, you'll see that they are red with exclamation points marked out on any of the restricted ones, which means you can't use these Elunes at all. Well, you won't get the bonus if you use them, so it's just kind of telling you that these are the restricted ones for this battle. As you go through the different battles, the restrictions will change on different teams. Normally the same set of 5 is always the case, but you'll have some legendary and some epic Elunes and stuff that will appear on the list, and you'll just have to keep that in mind when building your team. So always make sure to check the restricted Elunes before you decide to go ahead and use that as an option, just to make sure it's not one of maybe a core team that you use for doing that. So we'll go ahead and skip through this. I went with this one. Now going with that last option means you get the most points because it'll give you a bonus. So for this one, this was an easy one to do because this one I'm facing a PvE style team with low CP, and it's just a computer controlled team at the very beginning. So it's very easy. This is very similar to just a standard PvE situation. Now, as you can see for the score, which I'll try to go back to it. As you can see, there's an event bonus here score that you get, but you get the main ones that you want to pay attention to. There's a base reward depending on which win you're at, and then there's a season bonus, you know, 1.1 times the score or whatever, and then you have a Medina secret deal. Now, by going with the hard mode option, it's 1.5 times your base reward, so that means you get the most extra out of it for the finals. So then, as you can see, it calculates up the final reward, and I'm getting 59. This gives me the best possible type reward that I can get. So we'll go through and we'll look at some other ones. Most of these are fairly much the same thing, so we'll look at some of the other conditions. So for this one, as you can see, this one, winning against an opponent with a lower CP than yours, that's very easy to do. Win against an opponent with a higher CP than yours, that one's not too hard to do either for most cases. And then win by including a foul in your team by not using it. This means you have to build a team that say is low enough merit so that you can include a foul on your team. You don't have to, but you can, and it does go against your merit. But then if you include it on your team, just don't use it in the battle. So you can add it to your team so it takes into your merit, and then once you get into the battle, you just don't want to use it, which is usually pretty easy to do. You just don't touch it. So don't tap on it to use it. You don't use it, you win the hard condition. That hard condition is usually pretty easy to do. The only drawback is that you have a little bit lower merit that you can use. So when picking the foul, usually you want to go with the one that takes away the least amount of merit, so that way you can have that merit available for your team, so you can build a better team instead. So these are what some of the fouls look like, just skipping through here. This one, what it does is a soul damage to the enemy with the highest attack. So it's going to look at any of the enemies that have the highest attack, and it's going to do 10% of the enemy's max HP as soul damage, so ignores any types of shields or anything that they have. But then it also stuns them for 3 turns, so that way you don't have to deal with their hard hitting, you know, the hardest hitting one that they have there. So if they have one primary Elune that's going to be hitting the hardest and you don't want to deal with it, then you can go with this one, and then that one essentially stuns them for 3 turns, and you can deal with the rest of the team until you get it down. The other option here, the cheerleading dark cheer, this one is a soul effect that gives you an attack of all of your allies by 50% for 1 turn. This is a good one if you're going with a strong type cleave team where you're just trying to nuke the entire AoE down at once with your team, and you're quick at being able to move to do it. Then what you want to do is when the battle starts, don't click on it right away, wait until you get a turn, because if you use it right as soon as the battle starts, then and you buff yourself with attack, and then the other team does some type of CC, like on a provoke on you, or they stun you or paralyze you, then that attack buff goes for that turn. You don't even get to use it, it's gone. So right before you start doing your main attacks, that's when you want to wait to use this, and then you can tap it there and have that 50% extra attack, giving you a little bit more power to kill them with. Let's skip through some more, just various aspects of it. Let's see. Most of these are pretty just straightforward type things. See, these are some other of the restricted Elunes that you'll see. As you can see here, there's 3 of the legendaries and then 2 epics here. You can't, that would be a restricted Elune to use. You start getting into some where you start facing the players, and then you can see what the season bonus mission is. If you complete that, then you get an extra then you get a bonus. If you don't complete it, then you don't get that. The bonus is always just an easy thing where it's just 1.1 times the score. Then you have the secret deal. This is the option that you choose here based on that. Let's see if we can find one that we fought against that had a very high CP score, or a very high merit score. So that way we can show you what happens if you go with a high merit. Okay, here's one here in this battle that I'm doing here. I would be doing it against this score. Now this is the defense that this person selected, and they went with a very high merit. So either they didn't change the default one, or they didn't pay attention, or they just figured, hey, I'm strong enough even with the reduced effectiveness of my team that it tells me about, I'm still going to be able to win. So whatever the case, more than likely they just didn't know to change it, or they didn't change it. But in this case, as you can see, they have the same merit cap that everybody else does at 2200, but they have a 2850 merit, which means they're going to be at a disadvantage. So while they do have some strong Elunes there on their team, and they have a good team, their merit is so high. So I can go in with a much weaker team or something in terms of, you know, just power or something, but then I'm under the merit and I already have a big advantage over them. Now in this case, I still have a higher CP score, mainly because my Arslan has a huge CP score. It's over 60k just by itself. So, you know, I have a big CP score already, but it's the merit that it goes by for these battles, not the CP. So for like this, I have a low merit, but I have a high CP. They have lower CP, but very high merit, because that's the difference. So you kind of want to go for the CP over the merit in this case. So you want to try to use Elunes that give you, you know, good combat power, good CP scores, and, you know, good abilities, while still having the low amount of merit that they take, so that way you have the most effectiveness of your team. So let's see if we can go ahead and watch this match real quick, just to show you basically what's going to happen. So these are just, again, the fouls, same fouls as before, but it's just they're flipped on the order, but it's the same ones. It's random between just a few different ones, so there's not too many of them. So here I went ahead and used a foul because my merit score was low enough, so I picked one that's going to stun the one with the highest attack. Not that I really need to use it, but you know, it's there anyway because it doesn't take much. So if we watch the battle here, you can see right away that if you look at the HP of them, since I have this showing the HP by the number, you can see that their HPs are so much lower than me. It's because that's part of having the high merit score. It reduces their HP by half. And since the HP is doubled for these battles, by having them with this high CP score, they're essentially back down to normal, so whatever their base HP is. So you can see that just the huge discrepancy right there at the very beginning, not to mention they're so much weaker too. So if we watch this, now they got a lot of provokes on me, but that's fine. You can see how much damage just a normal attack did to the Fahrenheit. It almost killed it. You see, as you can see on here, things that shouldn't be doing a lot of damage are still doing a lot of damage. So here I just use this one just to stun them up, just to show. So that's what it does. See, it does a little bit of damage and then it stuns them for 1 turn. Oh, I'm sorry, it stuns them for 3 turns on that one. So for this, as you can see, even just the basic non-damaging Elunes that I have are still just destroying them hard just because they have nothing. And you can see even like their Artemil, it should be doing a lot of damage, but it's not doing hardly any damage to me just because its stats are so low. Like you can see here on this, just this AoE here, it just did a lot of damage to them just because they have no defenses and it's very easy to kill them. So that's why like having that low merit score or under the max is so important, because their team should have done much better, but just because of that merit being so high, their team is just doing so bad. So when you're building a defense team or even an offense team, it is something you want to pay attention to because it's going to make a big difference in the battle. So this, in a way, this arena does help people that are lower into the game or maybe like mid-game or so, because it's not focused so much on just the in-game or the most legendaries or OP legendaries out there. A lot of Elunes in this one that work really well are actually just some of the epics or some of the farmable legendaries, or just some of the easier to obtain legendaries, and they work really well in these battles just because of how this battle is set up, with the merit score really kind of being the cap. Now, you know, if you are late game, you're still going to have the advantage of having the better gear, so you can have the higher CP, so those Elunes that you're using do more damage. You will have that, but you can still win without needing that, because a lot of the people that are going to be doing this are just not aware of some of the aspects of it yet, so you can kind of take advantage of that. Like this one, you can see this one, they have the full 2200 of 2200 for this one. They went with a full legendary team, but they just went with one that just caps out their merit, but they're going with a full legendary team on it just so they can do that. But it's still like this team is not, even though with that it's still not going to do that well, even though they're capped out on there, just because of the way they'll do better than some, but they won't do that great just because they're just going for the legendaries. They're thinking the legendaries make all the difference, but there's actually a lot of epics in these battles that'll do really well, and it's something that people don't realize. They can use less merit by going with a really good epic Elune instead of a just this legendary instead, and that way they can have a really well built epic, use that, and they can do better against than these legendaries, even though the legendaries are there. So it's something that you're just going to kind of want to watch out for. See, here's another one. Now on this one, they screwed themselves on here. They went with a 22-20, so they're 20 merit over where they needed to be, and they could have simply just taken out this one rare Elune that they have at level 34 star. They could have just taken that out of their team, as it's not going to do anything to help their team anyway. And then they could have just ran a 4-man team instead of a 5-man team. They could have ran a 4-man team and then saved off that merit, so they would be under the total, so they would be at the below the 2200 cap. And if they would have done that, then their team would be a lot harder to beat, because that team does have a good balance to it. You have a good tank in the front, you have a support healer with the Artemil, and then you have a good AoE damage dealer with the Arslan, but then you also have a debuffer that really screws up the attack and the speed and stuff of the enemy with the Alvida. So they would have a decent team there. Or they could have went even with a 6-star Alvida just to make it stronger, and by removing that other Elune out of the team, and then ran a 4-man team. And you'll see that on some of the battles where people will run 3 or 4-man teams instead of the max, because they would rather have the power of those fewer number of Elunes than just filling up all the slots. So that's just another strategy you can use with this, so that way you're under the merit, because going over the merit is always going to be worse. So for like this team would do so much better on defense if they didn't use that 4-star Elune that they have in here, this rare Elune. If they took that out to go under the merit limit, this team would be so much better. But as it is, it doesn't do well just because of what it is. So like if we go here, and I'll show you the battle here as it starts, so we'll just go ahead and play this one just to show you again why the merit makes so much of a difference. So we'll start this one here, and again, of course, I'm provoked because I'm always going to be faster than them. So if we start this one, see, I can start off just by stunning their Arslan, because I know that one's going to have the highest attack. See, I'm almost one-shotting this with a normal attack and no buffs with the Arslan to this thing. And then, of course, the Reaper finishes it off easily because it's so low HP. And it's just because they have no defenses and no HP. So it's so easy to beat this. And as you can see, they're so low already. Again, even against my little rare healer here with bad gear, their Artemil is doing almost no damage to it. So as you can see, like their team, when you go over the merit, the teams are just really bad. So you really want to make sure you pay attention to that and don't go over the merit on it, because it makes it so much worse for your team. It doesn't help at all. No matter how strong your team is, it's going to be a lot worse if you go over on the merit. So it essentially just makes it half of whatever it is, and that makes it so easy to beat. See, like on this team now that I'm fighting, on this one, let's go back and take a look at the team before we start. See, on this one, this person is doing a good job. They're going with a good team, but they're staying under the merit by only using 4 instead of all 5 slots. So for this, they have a good team, good power, good kind of synergy, good abilities across it, because they have a decent support and healer with the Artemil. It's going to be tanky, it's going to do decent damage, and it has the ability to heal. The Balder is going to be nice because it can apply those debuffs, the blaze effects to deal the soul damage. Not to mention it's got a good AoE, and it hits hard anyway. They're going to have the Karu to help them out by buffing their team and stuff for extra crit, and then they're going to have the Reaper in the back line, and the Reaper is going to be used to be able to, you know, help nuke or instant kill a target. And there's a couple of things here that you're going to want to pay attention to. Reapers counter other Reapers in the back line, because part of the passive of a Reaper is that if it's in the back line and there's something in the front line alive, then it will evade the damage that it gets hit with in the back line from any other Elune. But Reapers ignore that. If you're fighting another Reaper with a Reaper, then you can hit that Reaper with your Reaper. Which means if in this case I can target their Reaper, I'm going to run a 4-man back line against their Reaper. And the reason I do that is two things. One, you know, the main reason is that it gives them, it'll put its debuff, its assassination mark, on one target in the back. But the AI isn't smart enough to target that specific one. It'll go after something else. So that means there's a good chance that it'll never do any of its main abilities, especially its instant kill, because it's got 4 targets to choose from. So it'll mark one and then it'll hit one of them. So it might hit the one that has the mark, but there's a good chance that it's going to hit something else. I have a better chance. So by doing that, you're kind of playing to the AI weakness of the Reaper on defense to do that. So that is absolutely fine with me. I'll take that and use that to my advantage. The other thing here that I'm playing with is I have, there's one of them in the back now that I'm using, which is my Majed, and that one can get a mark, but it can't be targeted by the Reaper as long as I have at least 2 others that have more HP than it, which is usually going to be the case. So if that's the case, then they can't. So even if it marks that one, I never have to worry about the Reaper instant killing. The other thing is I have 2 Elunes that I'm running that are revivers. The Majed will revive on its turn if the Elune that died had its buff, and since I'll keep the buffs up on it, I don't have to worry about that. It's going to revive on its turn. The other one is the Yanhua. That one will also has an ability to revive. So if I need to revive something else, then I can. So I have 2 revivers on the team, so whatever dies, I still have the ability to revive. So it's just a way to play against the Reaper. The Reaper can kill, but it doesn't prevent reviving like a Congram would. So let's go ahead and take a look at this battle just to kind of show you. This is a harder battle just because they have a good team. Even though it's only 4, it's still very strong. So as you can see, they're running a single front man defense, which is the Artemiel. And then their back line is, of course, the Reaper. You always want to run it in the back. And then, of course, they have the Karu and Balder in the back line also. So on this case, their Reaper marked my Arslan. So, okay, that's fine. It marks it, but that means I still have a 75% chance that this will want to target something else, but it won't. It's only down to it's actually a 66% chance because it can't target the Majed. So that way I have a 66% chance. Now if it targets my Reaper, that's fine. I don't really care. It's not going to kill me without its other abilities, its instant kill or its mark on it. I don't have to worry about it. So let's go ahead and play it out some. So now you see in this case, see it targets my Yanhua. Now see, I target it and it doesn't evade the damage from my Reaper. See, I'm evading the damage from theirs, like their counterattacks and stuff, and the AoEs. I can evade that damage. Now see, with my Majed, I just buff the Yanhua to make sure that it's going to have buffs on it, so if it dies, then I don't have to worry. Also, if you see, their Reaper is asleep, and that's part of the effect of the Unwa. The Unwa has the ability to sleep as a passive with a 50% chance. Now see, I've already killed their Reaper, so I don't have to worry about it unless the Artemil revives, but it's provoked right now, so it's no big deal. Here I'm just passing along buffs with the Majed just to make sure that if something dies, like, it can be revived easy. As you can see, those blaze effects work really well, especially at the early on when you have high HP. They do a lot of damage. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and buff to make sure everybody has a buff on my team, so that way if any of them die, then they get revived. I'm also going to use the AoE heal here too from the Yanhua, just to give me a little bit of healing. See, basically on this one, my Reaper is just having free reign to kill whatever it wants. See, my Arslan died, but immediately got revived because my Majed took a turn, it had a buff, immediately got revived. I just rebuff it again, and if it dies again, no big deal, it just gets revived. Even though there is a cooldown to the Majed skill, it'll still revive later. So their team did well, just even with 4 on it. But like I said, the main thing that you want to pay attention to is that merit. Their team would have been worse if they had picked and made it 5. So going with the 4-man team will work out much better for them. Here's another team here. This one has 3,200 merit, so this team is not going to do very well at all. And we'll just play this one real quick. See, this one I went with the attack one here, but so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll buff my attack for my Arslan, and then I'll go ahead and use his second skill to AoE. And as you can see, their team is pretty much dead now. The only thing that survived was the Artemil, and it'll be dead shortly. I don't have to worry about the counterattacks on the Majed. It doesn't happen because it can't be targeted, so it can't be counterattacked against from the Artemil. So I can attack anything freely and not have to worry about it being hit on a counterattack. That's why it's okay if it's a little squishy. Okay, this one is just another person that's doing a good job. They're going again with a 4-man team. As you can see, they're running a good team. Their main damage dealer here is going to be their Artemil. This is a decent team. They have a tank that can provoke if you try to debuff it. They have a dedicated healer with cleansing ability in the Trent. They have the buffer with the Wei, which also does healing, and then they're running, you know, an empty 5th slot here to keep their merit down below the 2200. Again, this is smart because this team will do much better this way than it would with that 5th person in here, because there is no 40 merit type. You know, Elune you'd want to run here anyway, nothing that would be helpful, so no point to run it. So in this case, this team is going to do better for them than if they had tried to run a 5th one and went over on the merit. So just something that is very smart to do. Some people do it, some people don't, but this team will do better and have a better win rate for them and do better or be stronger against an enemy, an attacker, than say if they'd went with a 5-man team and went over on the merit. No matter who their other one was, this team is still going to do better as 4 than 5. we're just going to go ahead and skip through this anyway, just because it's pretty straightforward. Basically, I just use my Reaper to kill their Artemeal, and then kill their team with the rest of my team just surviving it and reviving if needed. This person just went with a single, and I don't know why. I guess the thing is if you do this, you're not helping yourself. You want to build a defensive team that can win, that does have a decent chance of winning, because if you lose on defense, you actually lose points that you would get at the end of the season, because each time you lose on defense, you lose points. And I think that was pointed out. Let me see if I can jump back to the beginning of the video where I show that on defense. Let me see. Yeah, as you can see, like on my defenses, I have the 2 losses and then a win, and you can see I'm losing points on the 2 losses. I'm actually going to be losing points. That takes away from the rewards that I'm getting if I lose. So, like on this one, I don't get anything if I win on a defense, but if I lose a defense, I lose the points or the rewards that I get. So I don't want to do that. So, you know, obviously you want to make a defense that is capable of winning. So you don't want to build one that just doesn't ever win. So like for this one, they built a single Elune team, but it's not going to win unless they just get really lucky against someone. It's not going to be winning anything. So they're always just going to be losing points or losing the rewards every time somebody attacks it. So like me attacking this one is just going to cost them rewards. So it's not worth it at that point. You might as well just go ahead and finish out the team just with something that has a chance of winning. Here's another person that also went with just a 4-man team just to win. Something to note when you are fighting, watch out for these Mikazukis, especially depending on what you're running for a healer. Mikazuki is very good with her 3rd skill, especially against Freya's and Weiwei's, because if you're running a team that has a Freya or Weiwei, they do those passive type heals, and Freya's great to take a Mikazuki into if you're running Freya on defense. Because if they're running a Freya on defense, you take a Mikazuki in there and you use its 3rd skill. Its 3rd skill puts a zombie effect on it, which means any healing that Elune gets that has a zombie effect on it, that healing is negated completely. So in other words, it's 0. They get no healing. Instead, that healing is turned into a soul damage, which means even if they have invincibility from the Freya skill 3 or a shield from the skill 2, it is instead turned into a soul damage, which ignores all of that anyway. So if you're running the Mikazuki on your team against, and somebody's running like a Freya Weiwei team or something with lots of healing, or even the Artemeal that does healing every time it attacks and does damage, if you get that zombie effect on them, so you're going to want good accuracy so you can land it. You put that zombie effect on it with a maxed out skill 3, then it's going to be 3 turns. So you hit them with that, which means now the Freya, because you hit damage, for each Elune that takes damage on Freya's passive, then she heals. So if you're hitting the entire team of like 4 or 5, it's going to attempt to heal, but instead do damage, soul damage. It's going to attempt to heal a 2nd time, do soul damage. Attempt to heal a 3rd time, soul damage again. And then for each Elune 2, if they have the Weiwei skill 2 buff for the defense, which also heals based on her attack, and some of those heals from the Weiweis can be 20-30k, depending on if she's attack buffed with her own skill to attack buff, then you can essentially almost have them kill their team just from trying to heal it. So instead of doing any healing at all to their own team, they're just going to die to the soul damage from that zombie effect, which makes Mikazuki very strong against teams with Weiwei in them or Freya in them, because once she lands that zombie effect on them, then anytime they heal from the Weiwei skill 2 buff or the Freya's passive, they're just going to be taking pure damage. And if they don't die and you get them really low on HP, and then say Freya moves to use her skill 2 to do its AoE heal, she can essentially just one-shot the entire team because she tried to heal, and it won't heal. It just one-shots everybody from that massive amount of soul damage that they're going to take. So you want to be careful with that. If you're fighting a Mikazuki on defense, like on this, you want to take something you want to take something in there that doesn't heal much, because if you take a healer in there and you try to heal with that zombie effect on you, you're going to just die from it, because it's just pure damage instead of healing. It's just pure soul damage. But so you need to be careful with that. You don't want to run a Freya or something like that that heals passively if you're fighting a Mikazuki, because you don't want that constant soul damage to yourself every time you get hit. So you don't want to do that. So either you need to nuke down the Mikazuki right away, which you have to be careful with because she has evasion if you have debuffs. So you need to be careful, or you just need to bring something in that can cleanse. But the only thing that really cleanses and then heals is going to be Trent, because you do have Leskar, which has a cleanse and heal, but Leskar heals then cleanses, which means if you run a Leskar against a Mikazuki and you try to use his third skill, it's going to heal, which means soul damage, and then cleanse off the zombie effect, which is kind of a bad order for it, but that's the order that those effects take place. Heals, then cleanses. So a Leskar is very bad against a Mikazuki, and a Trent is really your only option, because you can keep a Trent with your skill 2 on the Trent to keep up immunity to the debuffs, but then you also have its skill 3, which cleanses first, then does the healing. So if you're fighting a Mikazuki, that's something you need to really keep in mind, because of the damage. You can end up killing yourself by trying to heal or stay alive, and you're just going to be taking damage. So like for this team, this is very good. This is a very good counter to a lot of people, because this team right here will do a lot of damage with the Artemeal. It has a really nice buff for itself with the Weiwei. It's a very good damage dealer in the Mikazuki, especially with the zombie effect, and then it has a Reaper that is going to be difficult to deal with a lot of people unless they have some way to kill it. So this is a very good team for defense, even though it's only 4. It's strong because they have healing, they have support, they have damage on 3 different things, so it's very good. It's a very good team. But again, it can be countered by a Mikazuki also, because if you Mikazuki this team with the Weiwei doing its buff, it'll just end up killing itself. So I know I fought it, and I'm sure I won, because I think it was just I don't think I had any. I think it was just more of a pain. So as you can see, their Mikazuki evaded the damage, so otherwise I had a chance of one-shotting it. Now see, they buffed up, and this is going to be this is a problem, so it's something you got to be careful about. So we'll just kind of skip through this a little bit. Okay, so my Reaper killed them. Their Reaper is targeting, of course, the healer, so that doesn't do any good for them. See, they applied the zombie effect to me now. And they killed my healer, which was fine, because it wasn't going to be any use anyway after the zombie effect was applied. So for this one, let's just kind of skip through. So basically my Reaper is just kind of nuking them out as I go along.
너의 신에게 기도해라.
See, at this point, their team is basically destined to lose just because the Reaper of Mine is just killing off everything. And since they can't do any damage to it yet until they kill off my tank, it's basically that's it. I have until they kill off the tank to win. So that team, as you can see, it does do very good. So it is a good team to run, but the Mikazuki does help a lot, especially against any team that's healing. So be careful with that if you're bringing in healers against a Mikazuki. But also keep that in mind if you have a Mikazuki, even if she's not transcended up or anything, it's fine. She's still useful. That skill 3 zombie debuff is so strong against healer teams that you can win a fight by them killing themselves just because of that debuff alone. You can also lose a fight if you get that, so keep that in mind. If you're going against the Mikazuki, you're either going to want to make sure you can kill it fast, or you're going to want to make sure that you can do something to survive it or something to cleanse it. So if you can't bring in a Trent to fight the Mikazuki, then, you know, and you don't have any other way to deal with it quick enough, then, you know, you're going to have to figure something out, something to CC it, or look for one of those fouls that does a CC ability too, so that way you have something to use to fight it with. And this is somewhat of the case in air battles, but in air battles you don't have that merit limit, so you have more things that you can utilize to be able to deal with the Mikazuki, as well as, you know, making a team that can also do damage. You don't have to worry about that limitation with merit. But in the UGD Arena, you will have that limitation, making it a little bit harder to deal with that Mikazuki. So that's going to be it for this one. If you have any questions or comments, or want anything else answered about UGD Arena or anything related to it, please let me know, leave them below, and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Thanks.